Hoi, hey, how's it going? Hey, hi, welcome back to the channel. Talking about all the movies I've watched. My friend watched challenges. Yay. I love when my friends watch movies that I fucking love. Alright, we're talking about October. Holy shit. You know I'm almost at 500 movies for this year? It's crazy. I've got like 60 odd left and then I've hit 500, but I've got about 70 odd left before I've hit 500 films that are just solo films, not rewatches, because I've got like 11 rewatches so far. 10 technically, but one of them is I watched twice because I like movies. Anyway, alright, so it is currently the 15th of October, so let's take a look. Holy shit, I started the month off with Megalopolis. Whew. I had two choices for what day to watch this on. I had the Tuesday, which was an IMAX $20 ticket. Great. You know, $22, I think it was $24 actually, for an IMAX ticket is a bargain. I didn't know that existed on Tuesday, so I definitely recommend it. And a decently empty but nice sized crowd, enough that a lot of people were laughing, and other people were angry at those people for laughing. Funny. They didn't say anything. They weren't like, shut the fuck up, because it's like, this is hilarious. But I sat on the left-hand side so you could see the guy talking to Adam Driver. I did it all deliberately. I did not give it a star rating. Couldn't fathom one. It's like The Room. You just can't. Unless you're a chicken shit moron who gives it half a star, which I don't agree with. And also, I don't think you can give it 5 stars either. Not even ironically, because people seem to be giving it ironically 5 stars. Isn't Letterboxd fun? Theoretically, if I were to give it a star rating, I'd give it between 3.5 to 4. I gotta watch it again to see how much enjoyment factor I get, to see if it's really a 4 star, but I'm thinking 3.5 is fine. But I'm still just sticking with a like, because I did enjoy the film. I enjoyed the experience. It ain't perfect, but my review that I wrote is lengthy enough. One of those classics. Boy, he wrote too much on this movie. I think at least I can take this excerpt saying, Megalopolis is a film. It's whatever Coppola wants it to be, and if this is his final version and he's happy with it, then sure, bud. You made some people laugh, some cry, and some upset. He made art whether you like it or not. I just liked that I got to see Aubrey Plaza on the IMAX screen. That was a delight. She was wonderful. And Dustin Hoffman just dies randomly in the film, and I'm like, did he just hate working on it? So he's just like, just kill me the fuck, get rid of me. I don't want to be in this movie anymore. Yeah, it was really fun. On the 2nd of October, I watched... Some of these are going to be for Hooptober, so I'm not going to dive too much into them, but I watched The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I didn't do a Hooptober on the 1st because I double featured 2 Hooptobers on the 30th, which was the 2 Slumber Party Massacre films. But yeah, I watched The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I gave it 5 stars. I watched the Eureka 4K version, which is also a standard dynamic range, so I got a couple of those apparently. I made note of that in my Zoltan Hound of Dracula review. This was the day I found out that my grandfather had passed away, so it was tough to figure out what I wanted to watch, because obviously it was going to happen, and I needed to also still watch these films, because what the fuck else am I going to do? Like an idiot, I decided to go with a silent fucking German expressionism film, but it kind of worked in a way. It's a gorgeous film. My grandfather is of German heritage, so that kind of worked. Also, the director, which is the reason I watched the film, is called Robert Wayne, or Wine. Wiene. I had to watch one of his films for Hooptober. And so, yeah, it's the most cliche one to probably go with, but it's the only one of his I believe I actually have on physical media. And I wanted to watch the 4K again. I did mention in my review that it was very much a distraction, the fact that my grandfather had passed away and I was dealing with that. And you don't have people talking in the movie. It's silent film, it's just score. And, yeah, I think it worked really well just on the notion of, how I was feeling at the time, and the fact that, again, my grandfather's name was Robert, so it worked with, hey, Robert Wayne. That wasn't intentional. I realised it after the fact. But the factor of it being German was like, yeah, well, my grandfather was German as well. He didn't speak German. But don't know if he ever watched the film. Doesn't matter. But yeah, so it's just notable. On the 3rd, because of course I was still grieving, but, had to power through, I watched Cruel. Part of my Hooptober, gave it 4 stars. Love it. Great film. actually kind of terrifying, more terrifying as I watch it, because we don't get tropical storms like that in Australia, or at least not where I live in Melbourne. So obviously watching this peak hurricane season in the US with Helene having just struck Milton on its way, and I was like, holy shit, this is like really brutal. Because that's just how real it is. It seems cartoonish that water can cover a house. Lo and behold, it fucking can. I didn't, you know things. You know things from seeing things, but sometimes you don't make the connection as well, and it was just happening at the same time, so it just made it so much more like, it hammered it home a lot more, the gravitas of like, yeah, don't fucking live in Florida. There's a lot of reasons that I don't want to live in Florida. That's just one of them. On the 4th, I did a double feature of Thelma with my partner. We went out to the city. It was nice. One of my subscribers saw me, didn't say hello, but that's okay. It's fine. It's good to know I'm still recognizable. I had a face mask on most of the day because the weather was so shit, just so windy, and it just fucked with my allergies. Hay fever up the wazoo, so I'm like, I'm wearing a face mask no matter what people think of me, because of course everyone sees a face mask, they think COVID, and I'm like, no, I'm dying if I breathe outside here, because it sucks. The air was so thick with just like shit from trees. I can't remember what, pollen, that's what it was. But like the thick stuff. Anyway, we watched Thelma. It was great, wonderful. Gave it 4.5 stars. An absolute joy of a film. Again, riding on the notion of the fact that my grandfather had passed away, it is a film about a 90-year-old person. My grandfather was 86, but Thelma is like, 93 in the film, which is crazy. And it was just making me think of, this is where my grandmother will be basically now, because, she's just lost her husband, and, she's now got her grandchild, me, who's one of the main characters of the film, to take care of her, as well as, my parents aren't like the parents in this film, but, it's just that thing. So, yeah, it hit home. It was nice. It's one that I actually talked to Nan about, because I think my partner mentioned it to her on the day of the funeral. We're back at her place, my Nan's place, and Helene, my partner, mentioned it. And yeah, so it's one that I need to find a physical copy of to give to my Nan, ideally, because I don't know if it'll come to Foxtel or some other way for her to watch it in the meantime. So when it comes out, I'm buying it for her because I think she'll like it. So I obviously went home and still was like, I have to watch movies. Did I have The Head Cold yet? No, I didn't. It's almost coming up. I watched Demons, part of my Hooptober. I gave it 4 stars. Watched the 4K. Stunning. Such a fun movie. Don't you just love it when just demons? So good. Anyway, on the 5th, I did a double feature. I watched Mighty Joe Young. Gave it 5 stars. Holy shit. I was just not expecting to love this film, but I fucking loved it. I will do a video at the end of the year, probably at the start of next year, talking about my films that were highlights of the year, ones that really stood out. This is one of them. Going through every single Harryhausen film, and this is his earliest one, and this was the one that made me think, oh shit, this is my favorite Harryhausen film. It was previously like 7 Voyages Sinbad. But yeah, I love it. The Blu-ray was great, the print was great. The effects were so fucking good. Like, I knew it was like a King Kong rip, but also it's the fact that it's directed by the guy who directed King Kong. And then they just like, they go to Africa, and there's the monkey. It's Mighty Joe Young, because this girl raised him from a baby ape, because she traded for like fucking a torch and some jewelry. Funny. And then, they bring him back to Hollywood, and bam, he's in a nightclub, and he's the star attraction and whatever, and it's great. It's like, this is goofy as hell, but also really fun. But then as it gets, longer and longer, it becomes just more depressing, because of just how fucked the situation is, because Hollywood sucks. And then they break out, and it becomes it's like 3 different movies in one. I love when act structures are like, hey, here's one thing for Act 1, one thing for another for Act 2, and Act 3, a whole different fucking thing. And the whole third act is just a big burning building, and the whole image goes red, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? It's crazy, especially because there's an epilogue, and it just goes back to black and white after that. It was fucking hilarious. Genuinely amazing effects. I loved it. It was just so much in this that is replicated in Harryhausen's later films, like the lassoing from Cowboys with the monkey. It's the same as the lassoing the fucking cowboys with the dinosaurs in Valley of Gwangi. But that film kind of sucks, but this film is so much better. Holy shit. I highly recommend it. It is so fun. Not the goddamn remake of the actual monkey. Who gives a shit about actual monkeys? We want stop motion monkeys. They're the cool ones. Real monkeys are fine too, of course. Yeah, no beef. Anyway, I also watched Bad Taste. Gave it 3 stars. Found it on YouTube, which was fun. Because they just have all these like early Peter Jackson films on YouTube for free, which is great. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. Thought it was fun. It's not a great film, but it's enjoyable. It's commendable in like the essence of something like a Razorhead, where it's like some people would dig this, give it 5 stars like I do for a Razorhead, but it's just not completely my jam. But I get it. I enjoyed it. Put on the 6 because I was like, hey, look, Brain Dead, you know that film that apparently is really good? Yeah, also on YouTube, 1080p, uncut, illegal in Germany. Lo and behold, watch that. Fucking hell. 5 stars. Just 2 masterpieces in 2 days? What's going on? This was just... I didn't know anything about this film. I didn't know it was the goriest film of all time going into it. I knew fucking nothing. I was just like, I think there's zombies in this film or something. And it gets there. Like, you think the first act's like, that's a bit slow. And then like, his mum, oh no, okay. And then the graveyard scene happens where the preacher starts fighting zombies and you're like, what the fuck is happening? And it's the kind of film that seems so rare where every single scene outdoes the scene before it. You think a preacher fighting zombies is crazy? Oh boy, you haven't even seen the lawnmower scene yet. Oh boy, you haven't seen shit. There's a baby? Oh my god, it is fucking brilliant. Highly worth watching. It's on YouTube for free. Go watch it, the uncut long version, not the shitty American cut, not any other cut. The uncut version is fucking spectacular. It's so gory, it's so funny. It is tremendously hilarious. An excellent film, perfect film. Then, because I had a lot of time on that Sunday, I watched King of the Rocket Men, which is actually a serial. It was like 2.5 hours long, basically. It's one of those Republic serials, part of the Imprint set. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I did the stupid thing of playing chapter per chapter, but then I realized I should just click play all. So I clicked play all, skipped through the chapters, whatever. Was able to skip through the opening and closing credits and whatever between each episode, because the first one was 20 minutes, the rest were 13. Episode 10, I think, of 13, or 10 of 12, was a recap episode, but it still had plot at the start and plot at the end. It was basically the main character telling his best friend, oh, by the way, I'm the Rocket Man. Here's all the adventures I've been on over the past couple of days, and just flash back into all of that shit before cutting with him talking with his mates. I'm like, I don't need any of that. I get the gist. Let's skip to the end already where the actual plot happens. So yeah, I thought it was fun. I think this is a really interesting set and definitely worth looking into, so I will look into it more as time goes on. Then I watched The Unseen from 1945, part of, again, another Imprint set with The Uninvited, which I'd seen a couple of years ago and I plan to rewatch. I gave it 3 stars. I was expecting more from it. It wasn't a ghost film, it was a murder mystery, which is fine, but I expected a ghost film because The Uninvited is a ghost film, technically. They're both basically murder mysteries. It's fine. I know it's like a Turning of the Screw adaptation, something I've never fucking read, no matter how many people say, oh, this is an adaptation of Turning of the Screw. Good for you, mate. I don't fucking read. Let's move on. I thought the film was fine. The transfer, not amazing. The sound, not great. Every time a reel changes, it crackles the ears, and it's not great. I'm happy I didn't listen to it through the speakers. I had the headphones on, but holy shit, that would have probably not done anything good for my sound system. Anyway, on the 7th, I watched that one. It was really good. I gave it 4 stars. Campy as shit. Just a wonderful look at like early 70s eco horror and whatever. The fact that I didn't know what was going to happen and turning someone into a snake, crazy. Some really fun effects, some great snake stuff. I enjoyed it. Really fun movie. So, good stuff. The Scream Factory release is really good. I double featured that with Children of the Corn, the 4K from Arrow Video, per my Hooptober. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was quite fun. I hadn't seen it before, and I was like, it's just children and corn, and also a weird god thingy. And that girl from the Terminator film. So, what a movie. Anyway, I thought it was fun. Definitely not a lot of people's cup of tea, but I was like, I get it. I understand what's great about it, but I understand what's bad about it at the same time. So, still got to watch the sequels, but I'll get around to that eventually. On the 8th, I watched Casper. I did a triple feature on the 8th because, was that a Tuesday? That was a Tuesday. So I watched Casper. I had a head cold. That's why it kicked in the night before. Really not a great time for a head cold. Watched Casper, the DVD, gave it 3 stars. I gave it a like. I enjoyed it. Pretty fun film. Not perfect, but fine. A bit too many subplots in there, but it's alright in the end. I thought it was cute. I mean, Christina Ricci's great. You can't go wrong. I mean, you can, but you can't. But you can, but you can't. I then watched From Dusk Till Dawn, which I did not even give a review for. I just gave it 4 stars because I'm just like, cool, I fucking thought this was going to be part of my Hooptober. I had written down it was part of the films primarily filmed in or completely filmed in Texas. I read that wrong. I thought it meant films that were set primarily or mostly or completely whatever, in Texas. No, they had to be filmed there. And of course, From Dusk Till Dawn was not filmed in Texas. The first 20 minutes of the movie, 25 to 30 minutes, whatever, even 40 minutes, dare I say it, is set in Texas. It was filmed in California. The rest of it's filmed in Mexico, obviously. So, yeah. Wonderful. Great to rewatch it, but yeah, not a great idea at the same time. But then I rewatched Friday the 13th from 2009, the extended killer cut, which I got the new Arrow 4K for. This one was for Hooptober. It was filmed in Texas, set in Texas as well. It's an okay film. It's one of my least favorites of the Friday the 13th films, but mostly because it just isn't that interesting to me. Like, a lot of the films can be bad because they get rid of, violence or whatever sex stuff and have shitty characters. There's all these different elements that make a good or bad Friday the 13th film. For this one, it has great kills, excess amount of nudity. Jason's not that bad. It's a nicer reimagination. Technically, it's a sequel to the first one, depending on how you want to read it. The extended killer cut was really fun. Hadn't seen that before. I don't know what the fuck the difference is. Probably just more gore and more titties. I don't know. But it's great that they're both on 4K, both the theatrical cut and the killer cut. But yeah, I just don't really care about the characters, and it's really, 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 really dark. Like, visually. You can't see shit, and I hate that. I'm like, this sucks. This is on 4K, and I still can't see shit. So if I could see stuff, there's clearly visual homages to earlier Friday films where Jason bursts through a window and grabs someone, which is I'm pretty sure that's a reference to Friday the 13th Part 2, and you can't see it. It's so fucking dark. You can't see it. So it's just, I wasn't a fan of that. I'm like, man, this film, I still gave it 3 stars, but I just don't enjoy it. It has all the great stuff that a Friday the 13th film has if you just had the lights off the whole time. I'm like, there's no point. I can't see it. On the 9th, we had my grandfather's funeral, so of course when I came home I wasn't really in the mood to watch anything, but I had to watch stuff for Hooptober, and the Scary Movie set had come in, so I watched those movies. I had no relation to the funeral whatsoever, just needed something funny, I guess. So I watched Scary Movie from 2000. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's okay. It's one of those, if you love that type of humor, you love that type of film. Fine, whatever. Sure, it hasn't aged great is definitely an argument for basically any comedy that's ever been invented. But at the same time, it's it's fine. It's very of its time in the fact that it's specific references to Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and all that stuff. What it's specifically referencing is stuff of the 1997-1999 window of horror films. Fine, whatever. That still works if you've seen those films. And I haven't even seen the I Know What You Did Last Summer films, but I know what the fucking premise is because of Scary Movie, and I still get the joke. But I just don't really care as much for it. There's a lot of, hey, look, we're high jokes, and I'm like, cool, I guess. I don't really care for the we're high jokes. It doesn't really appeal to me. Do I need to be high to enjoy these movies? I don't think that should work. I should be able to watch these while sober. And yeah, there's just a lot of sex jokes as well. It's just crude teenage humor kind of deal. It appealed to me when I was a kid. I didn't even understand half of it, and I just don't get it now because I just don't care for it. So it's okay as a film, but the jokes don't always land for me. I still like the girl Regina Hall. She's still great, and that was the reason I watched it. And what's her name? Anna Faris is still great in it. So it still has some fun characters and some fun, some good actors in it. But yeah, it just wasn't amazing to me. And of course, I double featured that with Scary Movie 2, which I gave a 1.5 stars, which I still agree, not worth watching. The only part that's worth watching is, again, Regina Hall, where she says, this is a skeleton, this is bones. That whole sequence is great. There's like 5 minutes of stuff where I actually really find this movie to be quite funny. But the Haunted Mansion stuff I don't give a shit for. Tim Curry just feels wasted to the point that they kill him off and no one even bats an eye. There's still high jokes. There's still sex jokes. It's the same shit from the first film. I don't like the guy of the small hand. That was when I first watched it. I came into it like 2 years ago. My mates were watching it on streaming. I came into it during the dinner scene, like just prior to it. So the first scene I see of this movie, and I hadn't seen it in decades, was the guy's fucked up hand. So I hated that. Not great. And watching it with friends, you'd think it'd be more funny, and it just still wasn't great. I was just like, this fucking sucks, dude. But I rewatched it for this just time around because I got the Blu-ray, and I'm just like, man, this film just doesn't appeal to me. It's not great. On the 10th, I watched Scary Movie 3 because it's a trilogy set, even though there's a 4th film, which I have on DVD. I like this film. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it's really funny because I like, is it David Zucker? I think that's his name. Yeah, David Zucker, who directed it. This is the unrated cut. It's funny. I like the characters. There's so many good actors to it. Sure, it's still, it's Signs, and it's The Matrix for some fucking reason. And what was the other one? The Ring. Those are the main three. There's there's also partly 8 Mile. That stuff was obviously there, and then the Matrix, Resurrections came out. Matrix Resolutions? Whatever the second one was, obviously had come out, and they say it in the behind the scenes. That movie came out, they went, saw it, they came back, we're putting a fuck ton of Matrix stuff in this film. And you see the alternate version of the film with the behind the scenes, the deleted scenes, all this kind of shit. They ripped off a lot of stuff from the Matrix, and none of it worked. The whole ending was based on the Matrix, and none of it worked. But then they redid it, and it worked a lot better. I think the ending works a lot better in its natural theatrical cut. The use of the Matrix stuff is still funny. The very few times that they use the references, even George Carlin being there is great as the architect. There are some good gags like that, but the rest of it, if they had to put that all in, would have been really shit. And the fact that they filmed all of it and even edited it in and then cut a lot is hilarious to me. It's funny that it exists than what it actually showcases. But also they have Leslie Nielsen playing a stupid president, which I'm like, that is very relatable. So yeah, it's a funny film. And again, Regina Hall, short role but fantastic, her best one to date. So, I mean, the TV's leaking, come on. What a great movie. I double featured that with an Indian film called Asvins from 2023, part of my Hooptober. You had to watch an Indian horror film. I gave it a 1.5 stars. It's really pretentious, way too long, and a lot of these films, and this was on Netflix, all these films, the Indian ones were on Netflix because I didn't have any physical ones, obviously. I've never really looked into Indian horror films before, and I still had the head cold. I didn't really want to, use my time to watch a 2.5 hour long Indian horror film on Netflix because none of them looked good or sounded good. The 2 ones that I picked had promising premises, but weren't great. This one, not great, waste of time. Almost 2 hours of my time fucking wasted on this shit, all because I had to watch it for Hooptober. On the 11th, I watched Alien Romulus for a second time. I watched it in the cinema. Again, it was just still there. I'm like, thank God, because me and my mate had planned to watch it 2 months ago. He had, sick, other problems, whatever. Finally got around to watching it. Turns out he'd already seen it. But that's okay. We watched it. We enjoyed it. I still think it's fun. I still give it 4 stars. I think it's a really fun and inventive look at the franchise. I hope they don't do any films like this again. That's just a clear, every single thing that's in this film is from a previous film. I hope they don't ever do that again. Just because if we keep getting that kind of shit, I'm like, I don't want the Friday the 13th films again. We already have those. Those films got good again when they started being inventive and doing something different. So, and yeah, so I had a pretty okay day until I got home and had to watch Ludo from 2015. I gave it 1 star. This was the more promising 90-minute long, hey, a bunch of like young 20-year-olds go on a just go around town trying to find a place to go to a hotel to get laid. That kind of fun stuff. And then none of the hotels will take them after half an hour of looking. Literally, it's like half an hour of them driving around the city, fucking around, and then they go to hotels, and in a brief minute-long montage, all the hotels say, nope, sorry, your students, this is, someone will call the cops, we can't do a one night only, all this kind of bullshit. So they find a place that looks like it has vampires in it, they think it's creepy, but then they leave, and they're like, what if we go to a shopping center? So they go to a shopping center, and then nothing happens. They're just in a shopping center that's locked down, that's closed, and then they try having sex on the floor, and this random old couple approaches them. Okay. And I'm like, maybe these are the vampires. Technically, they whip out a fucking board game and start playing Monopoly, and then kill a guy, and then play Monopoly a second time after hunting down 2 of the girls that remain. I don't know what happened to the 3rd guy. I think he died. I don't know. I don't care. It sucks. And then the last half an hour of the movie is just the 2 vampires explaining their whole entire backstory before the main character girl happens to beat them at the game that they were playing, because it's a metaphor or something? I don't fucking know. It's the same as the previous one, where it's like, it's trying to do one thing for the first half of YouTubers go to a house to accidentally unleash a 15,000-year-old goddamn demon, whatever the crap. Sounds great. On paper. First 10 minutes... First person, this is the Asvin's one. First person perspective, horror film, pretty creepy, nicely done. Everyone dies. Suddenly they're all alive again, and I've already lost my interest in the film. And then the rest of the movie happens, and then it's like, oh, but there's also like this secret evil, and you have to like combine these relics to destroy this evil. It's just fucking stupid. Both of these films are bad, and I wouldn't recommend them. They're on Netflix. They suck. Anyway, because I was so just pissed off of having wasted my time because of this Hooptober list. Even though all the rest of the films I've watched for Hooptober have been great, just these 2 sucked. I was like, I need to watch a palate cleanser. Need to give me some juice, some vibe, some just... I watched Challenges again. I watched it for the 3rd time. I was just like, fuck it, I'm watching Challenges. I was just so angry at this movie. I put on Challenges again, and I just watched the whole fucking thing again. Just all the way till like... I think I started it at maybe almost midnight, finished it just shy of 2 a.m., so it counts as a Saturday film, the 12th. And fucking 5 stars, best film ever invented. I don't care anymore. I could live on just this movie alone. It's not completely true, but I love it. I love Challenges so much. It's such a good film. Also, on the same day, I watched Kill Baby Kill, part of my Hooptober. Gave it 4.5 stars. Hot diggity. Turns out Mario Bava is a good director. I already knew that. It's just, sometimes you just don't, like, Gothic horror is my, like, least, it's the least connectable subgenre for me. I don't connect to it as much, because they're usually all kind of stale-ish, like vampire films. They can be stale-ish, but sometimes there are versions of it that happen to be like, oh, this actually is really fucking good, and this one I loved. I love the production design, the characters, the creepy fucking atmosphere. I'm just like, this is my bees and my knees. I love it. 9 out of 10. 4.5 stars. So, really good. And then I went to the Cinemaniacs, watched Let's Scare Jessica to Death. This was a rewatch for me. My mate Phil did the presentation, which was wonderful. He couldn't tell anyone what the twist of the movie was. So I'm not going to say what the twist of the movie is either. But, of course, it's like a really big part of the movie, and he couldn't talk about it, because, like, 90% of the audience there had not seen the movie. But he did a great job of talking about the rest of the stuff, and about the film in general, so that was great. I gave the film 4 stars. My partner was there, and she was like, why are you giving the film 4 stars? I'm like, because it's good. And she's like, was okay. I'm like, it's good. You have to, gel with it. Like, I watched it on the Criterion Channel a couple of years ago, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I kind of knew what it was about, but I was just like, what is this about? But watching it again, especially in the cinema, it's one of those films you never expect to watch that in the cinema again, and that was really fun. So it was a good experience. On the 13th, I was busy doing the shelf, but I also, of course, did Hooptober, so I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022. Controversial opinion, I really liked it. I give it 4 stars. I know a lot of people hate this movie, and I'm like, I don't know, it all works for me. You get a bunch of people you don't like, maybe 1 or 2 that you do like because you have to like them, and then they upset the apple cart, and oh, what's that? Leatherface fucking shows up and starts cutting people to pieces, and it just fucking slaps. It's got gore up the wazoo. The bus scene is fucking amazing. I was cacking myself. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. This is the best shit I've ever seen. Yeah, it's one of those things where people are like, oh, you're gonna get cancelled, bro, and people were like offended by that when the trailer came out, and I saw that and I'm like, that looks stupid, I'm not watching that movie. Watched it for this, part of the Texas movies, filmed in Texas, whatever. And I was like, this film is just hilarious. It is a film showing you that, yeah, it's the trauma film, again, like most modern horror is now, but it's like, oh, this girl survived the school shooting. She now feels like she has to do something important. She has to be important, and she hates that because all of her friends were important, because she valued them over herself, that kind of deal. And it's like the same thing, like these are the only friends that she has left in the world, her sister, her 2 friends, this is all that she has left, and lo and behold, everyone gets brutally murdered by a guy with a chainsaw. So not a guy with a gun, a guy with a chainsaw, and she can't do shit about it, and I think that's hilarious. It's a weird kind of black humorish thing. Like, they bring back the legacy character, like Halloween did, except it's a different actress this time, which I didn't realize until after the fact, which I found to be even funnier. And they just fucking decimate her. They're just like, yeah, I'm gonna get my shotgun out, I'm gonna kill Leatherface. Blam! Oh no, he's not dying. Blam! Oh shit, he's not dying. Stab with a chainsaw, thrown above his head, piff down onto the ground. My goodness. Amazing. I was like, when she got there, I'm just like, Leatherface better fucking kill her, because that would be so funny. And lo and behold, he did, and he killed her. And I'm like, this film looks great. For a film that's on Netflix, it looks great. Like, it should have been 35mm, put out into cinemas, and then shot onto a 4K disc, even if people hated the film. That's what should have happened. So fuck Netflix for taking this goddamn movie away from us. But holy fuck, do I still love the film. I really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think because people expect the same thing that we've got in the original Texas Chainsaw. I've only seen the first and second one. I love the first one. It's a fucking masterpiece. I'm not so big on the second one, but I appreciate elements to it. I need to rewatch it, reevaluate it, kind of thing. I only saw it once in a movie marathon, so it's not one that I love. I haven't seen any other film. So it's not like I'm expecting, oh, I need a film that, like, introduces Leatherface and his backstory and why he was motivated to do this and all this. Like, that's the stuff you expect from a film like this. Again, the 2018 Halloween film. But instead it's just like, what if we just took the 2018 Halloween film and said, fuck you, 2018 Halloween film. We're going to do something completely different that's nothing like the original, but also is. It's still set in Texas. It's still a film about, like, an isolated person taking on a big fucking foe. It's the element of the social commentary thing. Like, it's a commentary against capitalism, much like even the first one was, where the blue collar worker rises up against capitalism by killing a bunch of hippies, as you do. I just thought it was great. I was really enjoyed it. Sure, there are some homages that I don't love, like him still dancing and whatever. I'm like, does he have to do that every time now? So, it was like a 95% perfect film, except for like the last scene of the movie and the post-credit scene, which just felt unnecessary. I would have been happy if they had just shot him, killed him, done, we're out of here, and that would have been it. But no, they still got a homage. The first film, remember the first film where he's dancing and she's screaming as he drives away? It's just, I don't care. It doesn't have the same feeling, it doesn't have the same effect. They clearly did that because, oh, the fans will love this. I'm like, no, this is exactly what I didn't want in the film, and you still did it anyway. But everything else I thought was great. I liked the sound design, I liked the music, again, the visuals were really nice. I really enjoyed it. I don't know why people hate it so much, so, I don't know. It is what it is. So, check out my review on Letterboxd. I really dive into the stuff that I absolutely love about the movie, and why I think it's so fucking funny. Because again, I think I even said at the end of my review how the whole film is a joke on how life is fucked no matter what you try to do, and how capitalism kills everyone and everything. So, gotta love it. And then on the 14th, I watched You're Next. Got the Second Sight 4K, gave it 4 stars. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I knew something was up about it, despite it being a home invasion thriller. Nicely thrilling, nicely scary, and then ramps it up a bit more. It's not a comedy like I was expecting, but I was okay with that. I thought the effects were great. I loved the main character being a fucking Aussie. 10 out of 10. Yeah, just some great elements to it, some great setups, some great payoffs, all these different things that worked really well. Good fast-paced, like 80-odd, 90-minute-long film. I dig it, I think it was 95 minutes in the end. But yeah, good 4K, good release from Second Sight. Wish they had alternate artwork, but that's okay. So, yeah. And oh god, I've shaved, haven't I? I'm sorry about that. I keep doing that. Anyway. So I believe the last thing I talked about was You're Next. So we're talking about Rabid from 1977. I have a list on my letterbox which is just films from 1977. I really like that year of films. I don't know why, I just do. Anyway, this was pretty fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's an early Cronenberg I hadn't seen. I think it's of his early ones, I think this is just before The Brood, but just after his other one. I've moved his whole selection from the shelf, so I can't remember. What was the other one? Shivers, I think, was the first one. I think as a first theatrical film, this one is really, really nice. It's a really interesting pandemic look. Some really interesting characters, some still Cronenbergian effects, but yeah, I like it. Very, hey, look, Canada. Anyway, the version I had a great 4K scan. It looked fantastic. So I don't think I credited. Did I credit? 101 Films. There you go. Pretty sure it's a 4K scan. It might have just been a 2K scan, but either way, it looked goddamn nice. On the 16th, I watched Clute on the Criterion Channel, again for Hooptober, much like Rabid. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I need to get the actual Criterion release of this, because this movie was fantastic. I was wanting a horror film that obviously, I need to watch one that Donald Sutherland was in. I didn't have any left that I didn't already own, because I watched so many of them this year, because obviously I just had, and then of course he died, and I was like, shit, I gotta watch more. They're all basically rewatches anyway. But I did end up I watched this, really liked it. Jane Fonda is terrific in it. It's really nicely shot. Really interesting story. I like how they kind of reveal who the killer is, kind of like in a subtle way, but then it's also like, wait a second, did they just... Oh, they did! And it's just like, it's good. It's really fun, really interesting, great characters, good performances. 4.5 stars! Anyway. The same day I watched Flying Disc Man from Mars from 1950, the serial, the 3-hour-long serial, basically. It's 2.5 hours-ish. I gave it 2.5 stars, in contrast to the first serial, again from the imprint set. Definitely not as good. You kind of get a feel of the idea of what it was going for very early on. I've literally got a rule now of just watch the first episode, 20 minutes, watch the start of the second episode, maybe the whole thing if you really want to, but just basically pay attention to the start and the end of each episode where the plot happens, and you're pretty much set for the next 13 chapters. The second last chapter, the main bad guy, whatever, tries to do his big plan, and the last episode they defeat him. Yeah, because most of the time it's people chasing each other in cars and shooting at each other from the cars, which I've never seen work in any of these films. And then there's a lot of punch-ups, a lot of people walk into a room, oh look, these are bad guys, well we've got our guns on you, so we're gonna pat you down and take away your guns, and just as they finish taking away their guns, the bad guys fight back with their fists. They do that a lot. I had it on in the background while I was doing this, but the amount of times I would just pause and watch some of the fighting and be like, wow, this is really cheesy, and then be like, this is still going, it's been 3 minutes. There's only 13 minutes in this whole entire episode, and like 1.5 minutes of that is credits. So, yeah, it's really easy background noise. But it was okay. I feel like the rest of them are going to be very, very similar, but I preferred the Rocket Man one because the Rocket Man stuff was great, whereas this one was just like, this guy knows how to fly a plane, and I'm like, good for him. Sure, whatever. On the 17th, I watched People Under the Stairs from Viavision, part of, again, Hooptober. I gave it 4 stars. I haven't watched a lot of Craven films outside of his main franchise stuff. And I really liked it. I thought it was like really well shot, beautifully creepy. The cast are from fucking Twin Peaks, which is wonderful. Yeah, really, really interesting film. Great social commentary kind of film as well. Just really, really interesting. I love so much of how they designed the house. This almost labyrinth type thing, whilst also having all these little pockets of just stuff. Good, and the release is pretty good. I got the new one with the lenticular cover and whatever, mostly for the extra commentaries because I did have a previous cinema cult release which sucked shit. So this is a good upgrade. But I think that there are like Scream Factory releases as well, so I don't know, pick your fancy. But I think this one's all regions, so there's that. On the 18th, I watched Terrifier 3. I gave it 4 stars. This is actually the first one of these films I found proper enjoyment in everything. Because the first one, I like it for being a schlocky, grindhousey, slasher rip. Fine. Easy peasy, great effects, cheesy as shit, funny. The characters are very slasher characters. Oh, they're gonna die. They walk into a dark hallway. Oh, they're gonna die. It's cheap ass shit. I love it. Whatever. Second one, too long. Plot sucks shit. The characters I don't care a single second about, but I love Art the Clown, and every single gore scene he has is amazing. Except for that one scene in the bedroom with the girl. Too intense for me. But the rest of it was great. But that film I didn't like as much. It's a bit of one of those benefits of the second film benefits from having great Art the Clown, and like he's really, really well realized in that film, and the effects are amazing, but the story sucks shit. The third one is a continuation to that story, but it's 2 hours long, and every time you have the main character on screen, it feels like a Lifetime Hallmark movie. Probably, I'd say Lifetime, because at least it's about trauma and whatever, which I still like. It works in the narrative. I know it's a cliche, but I still think it works. Because I've also seen what she's gone through, so I'm like, okay, cool. I had forgotten, but it's like nice to get some recaps. Oh, remember when she had to decapitate Art the Clown, who was butchering all of her friends? Haha, crazy. Anyway, every time that stuff got just on the verge of boring, they cut back to Art, and he's fucking someone up. And it's like, holy shit, the chainsaw scene in the shower, oh mama. That was a lot. Fun, really fun. I think Damien's really finally realized what he's going for here. It's crazy that this one still ends on a cliffhanger, which is hilarious because, of course, the fourth and potentially final film is coming out in a couple of years' time. But the Christmas aesthetic was great. The music was wonderful because they have their own versions of the music set to Art killing people. It's great. I love it. I then went home and watched Messiah of Evil, part of the Radiance film release line, again for October. I gave it 3 stars. It was gothic horror American gothic horror that I really was not connecting with. There were some great sequences that a lot of people point out. Like, I liked the shopping sequence thing. They're in a shopping center, whatever, but like a Woolies, I don't know, supermarket. That's the word I'm looking for. Which is an interesting sequence, but I love this in the cinema sequence, which most people seem to find as the best 2 parts of the movie, probably because they're so distinct from the rest of it. But it's very Lovecraftian. It's got a good vibe to it, but again, it just wasn't clicking with me. I like the second half over the first half because the first half you're expecting a plot, and then it just doesn't happen, and you realize, oh, okay. They probably should have... I wish I had known about that. Like, that the plot doesn't matter in this movie. Like, the whole, she needs to find her father. It's like, I mean, kind of. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, it's a very interesting film. And it's a beautiful restoration. But it just wasn't for me. But I will eventually rewatch it and probably dig it more. Because I've been getting a lot more into gothic horror to try to love it. It's been difficult. But every once in a while, there's like one that I'm like, holy shit, this is a wonderful. This is a masterpiece. But then every other one, I'm like, it's a bit boring. So, it is what it is. But I feel... I added to my Letterboxd, because apparently they had them on Letterboxd, Kat Ellinger on American Gothic and Female Hysteria, a video essay. Also, What the Blood Moon Brings, Messiah of Evil, A New American Nightmare, is a documentary directed by Kat Ellinger. Both of them on the Blu-ray release, which you can log on Letterboxd, which is really crazy. The video essay was really interesting, breaking down what American Gothic is, and the documentary broke down the movie and what it is and everything, and its production, all this kind of stuff. Very interesting if you're interested in the film. But of course, it's on the Blu-ray release. I believe it's on YouTube as well. Someone mentioned in their review that it's on YouTube, so I don't know, worth noting. On the 19th, after spending 8 hours of fucking filming goddamn sport, I went to the Lido with my friends Bill and Guy. Bill had not seen this film before. It was Hundreds of Beavers. And it's because it's got such a limited screenings in Australia. I'd already pirated the film months ago. I'd already seen it. Loved it. But this time around, I was like, if I'm not too tired, I'll go. So I went. I was happy to go. I love that I went. Firstly, 5 fucking stars. I still love this film. I gave it 5 stars last time. I think I loved it more this time. I laughed and cried at the same time. That never really happens, that a movie can be just that funny, that it consistently makes me laugh for the whole runtime, because sometimes I get burnt out watching a comedy, but this just worked for me so goddamn well. Coincidence, of course, 2 other of my friends showed up. Phil and Caitlin showed up, just happened to be there, and I was already in my seat in the cinema. It was a non-allocated seating, and they came in the row and sat next to me, and it was great. They didn't love the film as much as I did. Like, Phil gave it 3.5. I respect that. Caitlin's 2.5 stars. It's still a bit of a gripe on me, but at the same time, they still liked it. They still laughed. It just wasn't particularly their complete fancy, but that's okay. They were there. We experienced it together. I have no beef, I swear. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's great. You know, I mean, the perk of it all was that Caitlin had watched challenges earlier in the week and she gave it 4 stars. I'm like, yes, okay, we're still on good terms. She won't see this video, so it doesn't matter. But it was wonderful of a crowd. Everyone laughing at so many of the gags. It was beautiful. I think it got to the point, if you've seen it, there's a part where they're in a kind of barb roll and he punches a beaver's head off and it just reveals a human skull, and it would just caught me off guard. And I've seen all of this film and it still made me laugh so much. Wonderful. But I had to go home and watch a Hooptober, so I watched Demonia from 1990. I gave it 2 stars. It was really boring. It's not good. I wouldn't recommend it. I have the limited edition version from Arrow, which I was hoping at least it would be good, because a lot of people were like, it's like his last great film. He's not even dead yet. But it does come with the Lucio, like the Fulci Talks documentary, which I'm very interested in. That at least seems worth the money for the limited edition set that I got. So, yeah. On the 20th, I went to the city and watched Memoir of a Snail. Watched this with my partner because she really wanted to watch it. And I've seen the other 2 Adam Elliott films, one of his short films, and he's Mary and Max, my partner and I watched a couple of years back, but his short film, we had it screened at our university, and he came and did a Q&A after it, so that's great. He, really nice guy. Fucking talented filmmaker. Sucks that he's only made 3 films so far, but that's stop motion for you. But this was wonderful. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I cried, which is weird because I don't cry during movies, so the fact that I laughed and cried the day before of Hundreds of Beavers and then actually cried sad tears from this movie the next day is really, really interesting to me, so I like that. But it's beautiful. It's very funny. So many inside jokes for Melbourne viewers and Australian viewers, which I love. It's great. I love it. So I would recommend highly. When I got home, I rewatched People Under the Stairs. I actually had watched the first half an hour again with the commentary by Craig Martin, my old lecturer. It was his first commentary track, so I put that on immediately after I watched the movie the other day. Got tired, had to go to bed. Come Sunday, I finished the rest of it. The next hour and 10 minutes or whatever of the movie. Really good commentary. He has some good points that he brings up in terms of the production of the film, in terms of its context and what it's talking about. It was really nice. It was great. I'm like, this is great. I mean, I fixed up the shelf, had my old lecturers chatting in the corner of the room. Wonderful. It's 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend it. On the same night, because I still had movies that I could watch, I watched... Oh, actually, I needed to watch a Hooptober, I realise now. I watched Shock from 1977. I gave it 4 stars. This is the... is this the Bava? Yeah, Mario Bava film. His last film. Again, 1977. Great year. But yeah, this is the last film he made before he died. And I really liked it. I know a lot of people can be very dissonant on it. I watched a documentary after on the same disc, our video version. This guy talking about the film and everything, and how this was like his first film for Bava, but he's able to like pin like the three different eras of Bava, and this film was almost an era by itself because it's such a different film to the rest of his filmography. But I really liked it. I think what's her name? She was fucking amazing in it, and also it's deemed as a sequel to Beyond the Door, which is hilarious. Daria Nicolodi is fucking amazing in this movie. I have never seen her act so goddamn good in a goddamn movie before, and this one is tremendous. It's got some nice jump scares to it, some great like effects work, a great shot of a kid running towards the mum, and then suddenly, bam, a guy pops up. If you've seen it, you know how goddamn good a shot it is. I'm like, this is great. Love it. 4 stars. On the 21st, I watched Two Evil Eyes. I gave it 3 stars. This is the one that's directed by Argento and Romero. I didn't like the Romero part that much. The effects are great, but I didn't care that much for the story or the characters. But then the second part, the Argento one, I thought was better, even though Harvey Keitel is fucking weird in the movie. He just doesn't seem like he's actually acting. There are parts where he's really funny. I don't think it's intentional. He starts going meow, meow, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be laughing or not. This isn't scary, but it is interesting. Like, it's an interesting story of its own that if it had the extra half an hour, could have been a good 90-minute film or even a good 80-minute film. But it isn't. It's instead like an hour long. I think it's an hour long. It's basically like 60, 65 minutes, whereas the other one is about 45 to 50 minutes. But yeah, I think the Argento half is better, but I didn't like the majority of it anyway. I gave it 3 stars. It's fine. It's just, I mean, this release I got from Blue Underground looks fucking amazing. So if you're going to get the film, that's a hell of a 4K to go for. And then on the 22nd, I did a triple feature of Exorcist 2 The Heretic, Exorcist 2 The Heretic, and Kingdom of the Spiders. With Exorcist 2 The Heretic, I gave it 2 stars. You know, it's not the worst film of all time. I don't know why people give it that, but at the same time, like, I mean, right after The Exorcist, yeah, sure, I can see it. So contextually, historically, sure, I get it. It's got good ideas, it's got some good performances, it has some great effects works in terms of how they do so many in-camera effects and practical sets and stuff. It's just that the story is fucking awful. It's not scary. I don't think it wants to try to scare you either. Obviously, most people wanted it to be a recapture of the first film, and it wasn't even trying to, and then it does try to at the end, and it's just like, what the fuck is this movie? It's very interesting. So I'll give it that. It is very interesting. It never bored me. For 2 hours, I was never bored. I was just like, I just don't know what I'm watching. And that's just really interesting to me. So, yeah. But I did rewatch it immediately after with Lee Gambon's commentary. It was actually Lee Gambon and David Kittredge, which was really interesting. I've done a Blu-ray review talking about the whole thing, but given it was Lee's final commentary, I really wanted to listen to it as soon as I could. So right after seemed like the best choice. And I was fixing up the shelf, so I figured, you know what? That's done now. Another 2 hours gone. And I wanted to listen to another commentary. So I put on King of the Spiders and listened to his commentary on that. And credit where credit is due. Fantastic commentary. For like 95 minutes. Well, not even. Lee doesn't even talk during the credits. Once the movie's done, he just says goodbye and that's the end of it. And fucking amazing commentary. I think it's my favorite commentary of his now. It captures so perfectly, because I love King of the Spiders. Like I gave it 4.5 stars when I watched it like a month ago. If it wasn't in this video, it was in my what I watched in September video. But I love eco horror, and it's really interesting to have Lee talk about that because he was so proficient and knowledgeable in eco horror, and he's done a whole book about it and everything. But if you are a eco horror fan or just interested in that genre, if you haven't already got the Kino Cult release that has his commentary on it, I highly recommend it. It's a great transfer of the film, great look, sound, beautiful film, excellent commentary. He breaks down exactly what the eco horror is, the production of the film. He does so much in such a short period of time, and it's just like he's just punching it out. I love it. It's just like, man, it's like, thank God he didn't have anyone to talk to in that commentary, because he's just got so much information that he has to spit out in 90 minutes, and he does it effortlessly. So, unlike me saying that word. So, what else did I watch? this will be the second last clip, so I'll try to be a bit quicker because I know this is already a long video. I've watched a lot of films this month. On the 23rd, I watched All the Colours of the Dark, which was on the Criterion channel as part of my Hooptober, so if you want a detailed my thoughts on that, check out my Hooptober video. I gave it 2.5 stars. I think it's still contender for being a great giallo. It just wasn't what I was in the mood for at the time. Too cerebral, too dream sequence heavy, not enough slash and dash kind of thing that I was kind of looking for. So worth keeping that in mind, but still a pretty good Sergio Martino with a great cast. Some interesting stuff happens in it, so you know, it's okay, but I wasn't huge on it. On the 24th, my birthday, the last Hooptober, was The Love Witch, which I gave 4 stars. I watched that with my partner. We had a great time watching it. I love the 70s homage aspect. The lead actress is fantastic. It's got a great score, great production design. It just, all of it's great, except for, like, the pacing. It's 2 hours. It really feels it. It's annoying how bad the pacing is. But, like, aside from that, everything else works really well. It's really funny. It's got some sex appeal to it. It's good. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. It's a solid film. On the 25th, I did a double feature. My partner and I watched Over the Garden Wall, which I had bought the Blu-ray copy from one of my subscribers, actually, about Christmas last year. I got the limited edition Blu-ray, which, thank you, Mitch. I got it for $50 off of him. It's worth like $200 to $300 on eBay, which is crazy. I'm not going to sell it because it was really fun. It was really gorgeous. It's like a quick and easy, 10-chapter Cartoon Network show. You can log it on Letterboxd because it technically counts as a mini-series, because it is. There was nothing else that they did for it. That was the whole story. It's really cute. It's really nicely animated. The characters are really fun. I ended up buying a print that my friend Freya had done of the pumpkin character, which will be in my upcoming This Week in My Mail video on Monday. So keep an eye out for that, because I will show it off at like the start of the video. But yeah, so my partner and I really loved it. It was really cute. And then we went off to what was basically my birthday celebration movie, which was The Hunger, courtesy of the Cinemaniacs, which I gave 4.5 stars. It was beautiful. 35mm print. None of us had seen it before. And it was, David Bowie, Susan Sarandon, vampire film. It is so different. It's 96 minutes, which is beautiful because I didn't really feel it, but it's also like, man, it's crazy that was only 96 minutes. But yeah, beautiful Tony Scott film, very, very vibe heavy, very like atmospheric. Loved it, just gorgeous film. And I had a great night because, it was just great to see everyone and watch the film with people who were like, what the fuck was that? But it was great. On the 27th, because I didn't watch anything on the 26th, oh my god, I was so busy. I was like socializing. Ugh, I hate it. Anyway, on the 27th, I watched Road Games, courtesy of the Indicator Powerhouse set. New 4K restoration, looked great, sounded great, really fun film. I'd never seen it before. I keep seeing the ads from Broly. Now I've seen it, hooray! Gave it 4 stars. It's really nice. Definitely not what I expected, and I'm very keen to revisit it. I specifically got the limited edition version because Lee had done an essay on it, so yeah. Really fun. Jamie Lee Curtis is great, and I was kind of in the Jamie Lee Curtis vibe, so I was like, let's watch Halloween, because I'm going to watch all the Halloween films again for Halloween. So we started with Halloween the same night. The Scream Factory 4K still looks great. I actually watched the extended cut on the Blu-ray, and then jumped back to the 4K for the second half of the movie, because there's only like 3 extra scenes in the extended cut, and I realized now that in the extended cut they actually emphasize sister, and I'm like, oh yeah, because he killed his sister, and I'm like, wait, no, because because Laurie's his sister, because, Halloween 2 exists. I forget about that sometimes. Either way, the extra scenes, there's like one great long scene at the start with Loomis, but outside of that, none of it's necessary. But obviously I jumped back to the 4K UHD because I wanted to watch it with Dolby Vision and everything, and it was just stunning, especially the nighttime sequences. It's really good. I really wasn't in the mood to watch the film, strangely, whilst watching it. I still gave it 5 stars. It's still a masterpiece of what it is. But I'm just like, it doesn't feel slashery enough for me. It's too... otherworldly in a way, but I do like the presence that Michael Myers has. I don't give a shit about him as a character, but I always like how this film shoots him because it's just the mask is the emphasized thing, and not cartoonishly like in Halloween 4, but like just his mask slowly coming out of the darkness. I really like that effect to it. I mean, the characters are still fun and everything, and the mythos is great, and Loomis is fantastic. But yeah, so anyway, on the 28th, I double featured Halloween 2 with Halloween 4. Halloween 2, I gave 2.5 stars. I gave it, the first time I watched it was 2.5, then I gave it 2, because apparently I had already watched this 4K from Scream Factory. So I jumped back to the 4K, and the 4K looked great. I still don't like the film. It's one of the more unique slasher films that it actually is like immediately after, aside from like, some of the Friday the 13th films, whatever, but like it takes place immediately after, it's the immediate ramifications, it shows the ramifications of the town, all that kind of stuff, and it's really interesting. I just, like, the first half of the film is really strong. I do like the first half. Loomis is still great. He's completely batshit. The traumas that everyone's dealing with, like the fake Michael blowing up. There's some great stuff in it. The opening sequence of the pumpkin opening up. I even like the score now. Like, I used to hate the score, but I've grown to like it. I just don't like the film. And the second half, despite becoming generic slasher, doesn't have much to it. I don't know. It's kind of dumb. Anyway, some people love it, some people hate it, it is what it is. But of course, I did watch Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers. I didn't watch the third one because I watched it earlier this year. I still have yet to watch the 4K of it, I really, really want to, but, I'll probably wait till next Halloween, and I love that film. It's my favourite of the series. But I watched Halloween 4 because I want to watch the 4K. All these, I just want to watch the 4Ks to make sure they all work. In this case, it did, but the film still sucks shit. I forgot how boring it was. I gave it 2.5 stars. I think I gave it 3 and a like last time, so something about it I really liked last time, but this time around I'm just like, man, this is really boring. I hate that these films take place just on Halloween night. Like, Loomis is still great, but he's not in most of the film, and then the characters that are there, I don't care for Jamie's niece or daughter. I don't even know who the hell they are. Michael looks so stupid. I realize now just the mask is really, really dumb. Like, it works great in the first 2 films, but then it burns up, and it's like, maybe go for a different mask. But instead, they clearly couldn't, A, get the original, and B, they still went to the, Halloween section. Like, it just doesn't work. I like the ending. The last scene is great. Like, I really like how crazy Loomis goes, how the girl is now a killer. Except that it pays off so poorly in the 5th one that I was just like, I'm not going to watch the 5th one. I'm good. So I gave up. Instead, I watched on the 29th Cat's Eye, courtesy of Umbrella Entertainment. I watched their Blu-ray release. I bought it from Phil and Caitlin because it has an interview that Lee had conducted, so I wanted to watch it for that. And I really liked the film. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's an anthology, so it has pros and cons to it, but I like how the cat traversed the whole narrative. I like the first, story. I like the second story. They're really nice, tense stories with some fun effects and some fun character stuff. The third one is still fun on its own, with some interesting creature stuff, because there's a goblin in it or whatever. They refer to it as a bridge troll, but it's apparently a goblin. But it's really, really supernatural, and it's very unlike the rest of the film. None of the rest of the film has any supernatural elements, and this is the first one that does, and it's very strange. So I didn't care as much for the third one, even though it maybe is the more iconic one, again, because of the goblin and because Drew Barrymore. But I prefer the other 2 stories. I like the score as well. The effects was really good. The third section is still good. It's just so different to the first 2. That's almost like you could watch the whole first hour of the film and then just turn it off and you won't have missed much, So, anyway, what else did I watch? Right, it's Halloween. Everyone's watching spooky movies. That's crazy. So we got a couple more left. I think I ended it with Cat's Eye and Pet Sematary. No, I didn't. I ended it with Cat's Eye. So, on the 30th, I double featured Pet Sematary from 1989, because on the same night I watched Cat's Eye, my mate watched Pet Sematary, and he was like, dude, you gotta watch Pet Sematary. And I was like, I mean, alright, I did just watch Cat's Eye the night before, I might as well watch Pet Sematary today. So I watched it. It's the 30th anniversary, the 4K scan Blu-ray, but not the UHD, because I think I had cheaped out, or I'd heard bad things, but it was a buy two get one free, so I bought it. It was years ago that I bought it. It's crazy how it's taken me this long, but that's just how it goes. I really liked it. I gave it 3.5 stars, same as Cat's Eye. It's definitely a much different film, but I like the style. I like the look of the film. It's dark, appropriately so. Obviously with what happens in the film. I didn't know where it was going to go in the final act, but because I'd heard things of what happened in the new film that oh, this person's a bad guy and all this stuff. But then apparently it's different. The new one's different to the old one. I haven't seen the new one. I've never seen any of these films. So look, either way, I like the effects. It was creepy. It was minor league depressing. But a really interesting story. And Stephen King apparently wrote the screenplay and he acted in it, which is crazy also. It's not really that crazy, it's pretty normal. But yeah, I recommend it if you're a Stephen King fan, even though if you are, you've already seen it, so don't worry about it. But I also double featured it with Young Frankenstein, because Terry Garr had passed away that day, and I was like, man, she was in so many good films, but it's spooky season, I haven't watched Young Frankenstein for years, so I figured, look, I'll rewatch it, because I never loved it. I watched it a couple of years back, was like, it's good, I don't love it, but I appreciate it for, its homage to, the Universal monster movies and stuff like that, but I didn't think all the jokes worked. I think I've become more appreciative of its production design and cinematography and directing. The jokes still are, not exactly hit or miss for me, but I'm just it just doesn't always work, but a lot of the jokes do as it goes along. With actually Terry Garr's character being fantastic. I really like her character in the film. As well as who was the other one? Madeline Kahn. She's only in it for 10 minutes in the start and the end, and I love every scene that she's in. I did like some of the jokes that, what the fuck would I say? I did like some of the fourth wall breaking jokes. I always kind of find some kind of appeal towards that in a way. And Gene Wilder is, of course, iconic in the film, but he never makes me laugh as much as some of the other characters do. But I think that's kind of okay. He's almost like he wants to be the normal one, whilst everyone else has been the funny ones. So I think it's just for him, it's to be an eccentric character, which I appreciate, because obviously you get the contrast of that with Blazing Saddles, where he's not the main character, so he can have all the witty, fun stuff on the side. But even the main character in that is still quite funny, so it depends on the scenario. And, of course, on the 31st, after dealing with 2.5 hours of trick-or-treaters, oh my god, we had I watched by myself, I didn't watch this with anyone. I watched the new 4K uncut edition of Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street. I almost double featured it with Nightmare 2, but I was like, you know what, I've really enjoyed the first one. I don't want to, not ruin the mood, because I do like the second one, but I was just like, I'll just let it sit. I've got other stuff I need to do, so I did that anyway. I gave it 5 stars. It's been a couple years since I've watched it. This is the 3rd time I think I've seen it now, maybe the 4th, because I think I watched it in my late teens, and then have watched the Blu-ray twice, and now I've watched what is apparently the uncut version. I don't see any difference realistically, but I've heard it's just 20 seconds of difference, just a bit more gore. Either way, the 4K looked amazing. It sounded great. It was the remastered mix, but it was I had the whole surround sound because my dad was out at a concert. He went to see Coldplay, so Mum was out there just watching The Good Wife. So I'm like, great, there's no real noise, so I can have this shit on full blast, and it was wonderful. So that was really good. It looked fantastic. I was actually blown away by the visuals. It's only just this, HDR encoding and whatever, so it's not the most, amazing stuff, but I'm also like, you know what, this just looks really, really good. It's the Steelbook 4K set. It looks amazing. I still hate that the image of the 4K on the inside is just this random image of Freddy, not a specifically stylized one, just a random one of him early on in the film. It just looks not like him because I've over-contrasted it to brighten up the image. It just doesn't look good. In the Steelbook, that is. But I will note that I don't know if anyone else has had these problems, it could have been I could have taken out the player and re-put it in. When I went to the full black, fade outs, it would have in the bottom corner some flashing, and then the next scene would come in or whatever. So I've had that on occasion with films where I've had top and bottom black bars where it would flash along the base, so I turn the TV off and on again and whatever, because sometimes it's just the video signal. And it could have just been that. I rewound it the first time it happened, and it happened a second time, so I'm like, you know what, as long as it doesn't happen again for the rest of the film, and it did one more time later in, but again, it was only during a black, transition, fade to black kind of thing, so it didn't really bother me. But yeah, so that was my October, 50-odd films. I think there was 50 that I counted whilst doing all the posters that I've just put in the goddamn corner. But obviously there's like maybe 52 because of course I watched Exorcist 2 twice and another film, the People Under the Stairs, twice. So yeah, I'm aiming for 500 films again this year. I feel like I can hit it, but I don't know. I do have other things to do, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, see you kids next time. Hope you had a happy Halloween and all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next month, or just in the next video. But, you know, bye. See ya.